We found a witch. May we burn her? Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. And you heard Villager Me correctly. We are taking a look at witches today. The witch character class is absolutely a ton of fun. I'm excited to be digging into this and taking a look at what would be a mechanically very effective witch character class. Now, this class does start out with a lot of advantages coming right out the gate, which make this definitely, although the tier systems you find online through various message boards rating which classes are better than others tend to fall a little with a certain amount of opinion on them. It is undeniable that full spellcasting classes carry a huge advantage when it comes to how strong they can get, and the Witch is a full spellcasting class. And it's got some unique and interesting features and class abilities to not only help boost it a little bit further, but also give it a little bit of that flavoring and that role-playing edge that that can just really bring something unique and fun to your table and be something interesting for your players to dink around with a little bit, should you be willing to let them indulge in this. In particular, on top of being a full spellcasting class, which I've gone on before about just how broken they can be, especially once they hit mid and definitely high level. But this witch spellcasting class gets arcane and divine spells as part of the witch's spell list. Absolutely amazing. And not only that, but they get some pretty choice spells as well. And we'll be digging into those a later time. And not only do they get this mixed spell list that's specifically classified as the witch's spell list, they get bonus spells through a patron, some kind of higher power, some concept or force that is able to invest and imbue different individuals with power to enact and carry out their will within the mortal realms. Which patrons these are? Well, it just depends. There's a pretty broad range available depending on what exactly it is the player wants to do with this character and what you are feeling up for allowing. And again, we'll cover these different patrons later on in another video. And let me just say, again, I am taking a look at this mostly from a what's most mechanically effective sort of view. Now, and aside from what's most mechanically effective, I also love to consider what's interesting, and I will make mention throughout the different coming videos, taking a look at the class abilities and spells, what is most mechanically effective, but I will also give mention for interesting things, things that will be flavorful, RP appropriate, or RP heavy even. So definitely keep that in mind. But the goal of this series is, of course, to make the most mechanically effective character possible, without being an absolute power gamer or total freaking munchkin stacking different templates with races, with classes, with different magic. You get the idea. Anyways, continuing on with the advantages and abilities that the witch character class gets, they also have access to hexes. Hexes can be either little boosts for themselves, giving them an edge on a particular ability or check, or they can hex and debuff their opponents. Some of these abilities can include forcing their opponent to re-roll on particular rolls, or taking penalties to certain checks they may have to make, like their fortitude, reflex, or will saves. And on top of this, they also can have a number of other abilities to help boost their hexes further, like the cackle ability, which if the witch cackles, they can continue on a particular hex for an extra round. But that's just a quick little example there. We'll be diving into these more fully and exploring hexes and the various associated abilities again in another video later. To top everything off, like many other spellcasting classes such as the sorcerer or the wizard, they get a familiar. But unlike these classes, the familiar does a little bit more than just give them a boost or let them cast spells through the familiar or have a more intelligent critter at their beck and call. The witch's familiar functions as well, a witch's familiar is to the witch as a spell book is to a wizard. This is the receptacle in which the witch will spell or store all their spells. And not only that, but the familiar can learn other spells by interacting with other witches' familiars, or if the witch has access to some sort of scroll or tome with various other spells in it, when they go to learn these spells, they store that information within their familiar, making the familiar hugely valuable to the witch. It just astronomically skyrockets, and unlike a wizard's spell book, they only need to have one familiar. A spell book will eventually run out of pages. Familiar will not. So really cool, really neat little mechanic there that helps to serve to differentiate the witch from the rest of their full spellcasting brethren. But make no mistake, although tier systems certainly do have a certain amount of opinion that goes into them when it comes to rating the mechanical effectiveness of the various classes, full spellcasting classes have full weight of full advantage in their spells in their favor when it comes to these rankings. And it'd be foolish to say that the witch doesn't rank right up there, because they are a full spellcasting class, and the fact that they can learn such a wide variety of spells definitely makes them a force to be reckoned with, particularly if you're a veteran gamer or if you're a new gamer that's taking a look at how to make your your characters play a bit more effectively. This is really going to be helpful for you, and having such a broad range of spells is really cool. Really, the only thing that limits their powers are, one, your imagination and your selection of spells, and two, starting off like any other spellcasting class at low levels, they're not going to be very durable when it comes to combat. They're not going to be able to persist in long or repeated engagements. It's not until they hit about mid-level-ish or so, around about level 8-ish, that the spellcasting classes really start to dominate. And even then, the other classes can kind of keep up a bit. But from 8th level on, the various spellcasting classes will begin to completely and totally outshine all the other characters if they're put together even halfway decently. Just the full mechanical game mechanic advantages that that spellcasting classes can play upon really upset party balance and really start to meticulously chip away at the effectiveness of what the DMs and storytellers of the world can throw at their players, without the DMs being just absolutely ruthless on their own part. But that'll be a whole nother thing for another time. We're going to be diving further down along into this class, and I can't wait to dig into it. Hopefully this serves as just a taste to pique your interest, and also give you a pretty good idea of what we're looking at down the line. And let me also just say that if you thought the Monk series ran a bit long, I'm inclined to agree, but there were so many abilities to cover and so much to talk about. This is probably going to be about as long, perhaps a little bit longer, just because we do have to go through and talk about the spells. There's just so many, and also we have to go through and talk about the patrons and the patron sources of power that fuel the witches to begin with. So this may be a bit of an interesting one. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, and keeping to my 15 to 20 minutes ish format means that there'll be several videos made, and I hope that we enjoy them all and we can learn a little bit of something here and just have a fair bit of fun diving into this and learning. But with that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. If you enjoyed today's video and this brief look and overview of the witch character class, maybe consider giving me a like. Or if you've been enjoying content overall here so far and you want to become a more regular member down here at the Gamers Den, well, go on down there, click on that subscribe button. We'll be happy to have you added to our ranks. And also, if you do that, make sure you click the bell icon there so that way you get notified the next time we upload content here. YouTube's algorithms and the way the system works overall, it's not always the best about alerting you after you subscribed. Clicking the bell icon there helps to ensure that you know the next time that we get a new video uploaded here. But with that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. You all have yourselves a good night.